have the Conservative Party had a collective stroke?
Or just gone brain dead entirely?
No, because that would imply no action can be taken. Right? Okay. They're brain dead. They can't take any action. But I think the Conservative Party have genuinely lost their mind, sort of Fetterman style. Lost their,
Shouldn't laugh.
But like they've genuinely just gone. I mean, I feel kind of bad for them. Rishi Sunak's called the election. And they're like, okay, what are we campaigning on exactly? And so whoever runs their social media team is just like, well, I mean, we'll pull out all the old Conservative canards then, I guess. We'll say that Labour will be bad at these things. And yet every time it's like literally Sideshow Bob stepping on the rakes to smack them in the face. So I thought we'd just go through it, just see how unbelievably bad the Conservatives' online social media campaign has been going, right? So as you can see here, you've got like, they've tweeted out this, have you got a problem with Britain's roads? And they're like, yeah, we fixed it for you. So let's watch this.
I think you'll agree with me. There's a problem with Britain's roads. And you know what it is?
Oh, it's somehow the Labour Party, is it? The Labour Party. Right, okay. First things first. You're the government. You have been for 14 years. Could have overruled any of this stuff, like you did with the gender nonsense in Scotland, right? You could have overruled it. All of this was done under a Conservative government, even if you've got devolved powers. And 3, the roads are atrocious anyway. Like, notice the guys talking about, the quality of the roads, and they bring up, like, Labour 20-mile-an-hour limits and ULEZ. It's like, hey, they're really not the major problem that I have. I don't live in Wales, I don't live in London, so they're not my problem. My problem, and my Stream Deck has stopped working now for some reason, my problem is the fact that the UK's roads are terrible. They're absolutely atrocious, and they have been for years. This is from 2018 on the BBC, where they're like, thousands of miles of the UK roads are atrocious. It's like, yes, they are. And where's the worst? It's in Surrey. The worst roads in the UK are in Surrey, somehow, right? And
Tory stronghold.
Yeah, exactly. Not just Tory stronghold, 100% Tory.
Right, okay.
100%. Jeremy Hunt, Michael Gove, Kwasi Kwarteng, right? This is like the cabinet, Dominic Raab, Chris Grayling, cabinet stronghold of Surrey, worst roads in the country. It's like, why are you tweeting about roads if your record on this is so bad? Like, why would you just, again, step on the rake, whack you in the face? Why? And Surrey's a lovely area. Why would it's a rich area? Why would it have such bad roads?
Their councils are Labour?
I don't know. Even if they are, and I doubt that they are.
Yeah,
I didn't
actually doubt that they are.
I didn't check the councils. I doubt that they are. Even if they were, that's no excuse. You are not only the government, you are the MPs of those locations. You can go and get those fixed, and you should, but you didn't.
It's pure gaslighting, isn't it?
That would imply a level of comprehension, right? And a level of strategic thinking that I just don't think the Conservatives are capable of at this point. I really think they've had a collective stroke, right? So the next thing, don't let Labour put our reduction of inflation at risk. Who was in government? It was you. You caused the inflation. It wasn't just anyone in the Conservative Party. It wasn't like they can go, well, that was my predecessor, I'll blame someone else for that. No, it was Rishi Sunak who did this. Rishi Sunak. What?
Are you sure you don't see things from a short-term perspective? We could go centuries ago and stuff.
Well, we can compare all of this to centuries ago. So let's go back about 3 centuries, right? In England in the 18th century, if you debased the coinage, if you messed with the money supply, that was a death penalty, right? You literally got hanged for that. Now, people might be like, yeah, but the bloody code was too far. Yeah, but maybe not on that issue, right? Because interfering with the money supply was interfering with everyone's wealth. As you can see here, look at what happened in 2020. Oh, that's right, furlough. Whoa, that's crazy money supply addition. That only goes up to 2021 as well. So for people, for the Conservatives, like, we're getting inflation under control, that's like literally someone coming in, ruining your house and being like, okay, well, I'll tidy it up for you. Oh, great. Great. You're not going to get any props from me for doing for fixing the mess you created.
I thought Bidenomics was a good thing. That chart seems to suggest not so much.
Well, I mean, it would suggest. And even like the Independent, like, well, Sunak's not getting credit for in the polls for the inflation drop. And it's like, because you did this. I'm giving you no credit for this. You did this. Again, another rake, smack, straight in the face. Don't know why you would do it. And so the next one, and this is one of my favorites. As a small business owner, this particularly galls me, right? Small business, big tax. be careful, the Labour Party are going to really affect your small business. Oh, shut your mouths. Shut your mouths. Nearly 400,000 small businesses closed under the Conservatives because of the lockdowns that didn't have to happen. You could have handled these things in any which way you wanted, but you chose lockdowns, and 400,000 people got their businesses closed. You left open the big businesses, though. You left open Sainsbury's and the supermarkets, the banks, all these sort of things. All these things all did fine, but it was your regular high street small business that got whacked. They weren't allowed to open, even though, in retrospect, maybe about concentrating people was bad for the spread of the virus or whatever. Who knows? Unbelievable. Why would you try and stand on that record?
Yeah, small businesses need to keep closed for the sake of public health, but the borders will remain open, absolutely wide open.
We'll get to the wide open borders in a minute. Sorry, this is just... Right, so the next thing, let's talk about food security. Oh, you won't get eggs that were laid in the UK. Oh, really? And the farms will be in trouble. We're protecting food security, say the Conservative Party. The Conservative Party is currently, they stopped subsidising the food production in the UK, right? Because, of course, it used to be subsidised. It was the Agriculture Act that was passed in 2020, again. Like, not even history. If it was like, it was done in 2011 or something, I'd be like, well, okay, maybe it's not these guys' fault. No, this was in 2020. This is just a couple of years ago, right? And so what this does is updates the way that agriculture is funded in the UK, and they've got the Path to Sustainable Farming, an agricultural transition plan from 2021 to 2024. And so what this will be is the main tool for delivering improvements to water quality and biodiversity, key elements of the government's 25-year environment plan. And so what does that equate to? Right? What does that mean? That means that the government will literally pay farmers not to farm. Right? So what all of this is, and you saw the Welsh government rolling out something very similar. The Welsh government took it too far. The Conservative government didn't take it as far. But what that means is taking areas of farmland and making sure they are rewilded. So they're creating biodiversity, which is, of course, reducing... In Wales, I think they wanted like a fifth of farmland to be rewilded. But in the UK one, we don't have a target. But what they have is, if you leave areas of forest land for birds, or you put like extra, double-spaced rows so that can grow and stuff like this, whatever, I don't know how it works. But the point is, they're trying to reduce the amount of farmland that is actually farmed. And it's like, okay. And then
that leads
to food security, I guess. Yeah. Even though we only produce half the food that we consume anyway. So it's like, okay, so food security is nonsense. But then in 2022, they decided, you know what? We're just going to pay you to leave farming. We're going to give you a lump sum amount of money if you leave the profession of farming. And it's like, that is bonkers. We're actually paying farmers to just give up farming. Why would we do that? Well, the answer is diversity, actually. For some reason, they want to get peasants from across the world to instead farm their own countries, to come and farm our countries, even though we have farmers in this country. I don't know why.
So again, it's all part of the plan to replace us demographically in our own ancestral homeland.
Well, that's not what they would say. They would say, it's about representation in farming. Oh. Because the Conservatives are a left-wing party. They're totally on board with all of this left-wing nonsense. Speaking of left-wing nonsense, let's go to net zero. Oh my God, Labour will pursue net zero. No matter the cost to families, they're going to hike up your bills. It's in your manifesto. Mm-hmm. This is your manifesto for 2024. Grr, you're a net zero party. Don't be like Labour and net zero. Be careful. You're net zero. Only the difference between Labour and the Conservatives, and this is one of those really stark going the speed limit examples. Labour are like, we're going to be net zero by 2030. And the Conservatives are like, that's atrocious. It's 2050. We're going to be net zero, actually. Net zero is unironically Tory policy, but by 2050, not 2030.
It's the same policies, just with
slightly slower
steps.
Yeah, there's literally the same policy. They've got loads in here as well. It goes on and on and on and on. Just going like net zero, net zero, net zero. So that was a Labour policy. What are you doing? What are you doing?
The way the Tories are running their campaign is as though they assume you know nothing and are stupid.
And woke up yesterday out of a coma.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's literally how they run.
It's like being punched in the face repeatedly, and they're saying, if you vote for us, we'll punch you slightly softer in the face.
Yeah. Careful, that guy's going to punch you in the face. It's like, look at all these bruises, man. Okay, so let's go to the next one. The taxes. Oh, are Labour really going to raise my taxes? I'm really afraid of that. I am actually afraid of that. But, I mean, high taxes has just become a normal feature of life, haven't they? Look at that. Oh, Keir Starmer's going to get in your wallet. It's like, Keir Starmer's going to get in my wallet. There's nothing left in my bloody wallet. And they again, this keep going on. Highest taxes in history under Labour. Highest taxes in history. What, like we're paying now? Like we're paying now under the Conservative Party, right? Currently, the tax burden is 37.7% of national income. More than a third of everything the entire country earns goes to the government. And it's like, careful of that Keir Starmer, he's going to tax you. It's like,
if I can introduce a swipe of libertarianism.
Yeah,
I feel like taxes are a type of state-sponsored theft. That's what that is.
I think this is a kind of a vague boundary, right? So it's obviously there is a necessary amount of taxation to make sure the state can do things like protection and police and things like this, right?
Evil statist.
I think there is an argument for it, but there's a sort of Cerritas paradox here. That at some point, the grain of sand becomes a pile. And now, when we get to about nearly 40% taxation, I think that's probably theft. You're just stealing from me at that point.
An overly powerful state, centralized state.
Yeah,
clearly.
Yeah, obviously, it was only during World War II that the taxes were as high as or higher than this, which isn't very surprising because it was a world war that we're engaged in. We're not engaged in a world war. Why are our taxes at such ridiculous amounts? You realize that's our money? I mean, I don't want to get all libertarian about it, but it is my money you're stealing, you thieves, right? So, what about the NHS? Under Labour, the NHS won't be safe. The Labour is the only party, Labour Party is the only party who's ever had an NHS budget cut. So hello, base department, cutting the NHS budget. What are you doing? I want the NHS budget cut. Under the Conservatives, the DEI managers ballooned. Millions and millions of pounds are spent on DEI managers who get 140k a year, if not more. One of them's 230k a year. What are you talking about? I mean, literally, we can just look at the budget over time, which is just here. I mean, okay, no end in sight. Just it's continuous trend upwards. Apart from with COVID, when it was a sharp jump upwards for emergency funding, with just no end in sight. There's never going to be a cut. It's like, what are you talking about? This is all done by the Conservatives. All done by the Conservatives. And all you can do is make Labour sound like a good choice.
Would importing a net 700, 800,000 people, 1 million people plus year on year, that wouldn't affect...
We'll get to that.
Would it? Surely wouldn't have any...
We'll get to it, because obviously that's the reason. But it's just... Just shut up. A budget cut for the NHS would be a good thing. Next thing, right, what about crime? God, if there's one party that's weak on crime, it's the Labour Party, isn't it? Labour opposes stop and search. They're going to take tasers off the police. They're going to basically allow criminals to run riot in the streets. Not like the Conservative Party, who literally made it basically legal to shoplift under £200 worth of goods.
And have destroyed the police by having all the woke initiatives in it.
Yes, indeed. But that's, again, happened all under the Conservative watch. But they'll argue, well, that was devolved, London, Labour police have done that, blah, blah, blah. And
caused criminal damage on Whitehall with no repercussions as long as you're holding a Palestinian flag.
Yeah, but when they literally do this, right? So the £200 threshold was introduced in England and Wales in the Anti-Social Behaviour and Crime of Policing Act of 2014. So they literally put it in themselves, right? And so basically what this means is that they are telling the police not to bother investigating shoplifting under £200, right? Obviously, this is bad because it's going to cause more shoplifting. I mean, this is what the BBC a couple of years ago were like, well, hang on a second. The shoplifters are all like, we don't get punished. Like 9 out of 10 times you get away with it and you're not bothered about the consequences because the worst it seems is 4 months in jail for this woman. After doing it over and over and over, a couple of months in jail.
Well, it's a very direct assault on the very principle of the rule of law.
Yes. 100%, right?
So the only people in favour of that would be agents of chaos.
Yeah. The Conservative Party, right? And so last year, You know, Chris Phillips is like, no, I'm going to tell the police they do have to investigate it actually, right? Because the shoplifting offences, ignore the little COVID drop there, obviously, when all the shops are closed by the Conservatives. Obviously, thieves can't do as much shoplifting. There's still 50,000 incidents of shoplifting, even when everything was locked down, but don't worry about that, right? But for the first time ever, over 100,000 for the first quarter. So it's 400,000 instances that they know of that have happened in a year. It's like,
any sort of breakdown of the types of people that are doing these shops?
well,
allowed
yeah,
to
well,
notice any patterns there?
who cares, right? You know, we all
Only
know.
economic ones.
Yeah, purely economic factors.
You need to be taxed more, so more money is
Yeah.
given to crime-ridden communities.
Yeah, and so you had the chairman of a bakery going on Times Radio and being like, "Can we treat shoplifting as a proper crime, please, under this Conservative government?" If that's not too much hassle, I do actually think we're at the point where we need to treat shoplifting as theft and see it as a proper crime and prosecute. It's like, again, Victorians used to send people to jail for months for the smallest of thefts. It was really hard on theft.
I mean, the 18th or 19th century, you could be deported to Australia for stealing a loaf of bread.
Exactly. But now the Conservatives now are just like, well, I mean, less than £200, is it really a crime? It's like it kind of adds up when you've got 100,000 of them going on. Just saying, I'm no mathematician, but that strikes me as being millions lost by shops who've done nothing wrong, right? And so they're like, oh, don't vote for Labour because you'll get Keir Starmer and he'll be soft on crime. Keir Starmer's a maniac, right? My problem with Keir Starmer isn't actually that he's going to be soft on crime, to be honest. This is from a book that Max here has been reading, right? Keir Starmer, I think it was during the 2011 riots, Keir Starmer found a guy who was a 22-year-old Portuguese man who had not participated in the riots, but was walking past a ransacked ice cream shop, when he got himself a scoop of ice cream. Starmer jailed him for 16 months and then deported him back to Portugal, which, don't get me wrong, great. I'm totally in favour of, but like, night and day difference.
But also, don't investigate or prosecute
Jimmy Savile,
Jimmy Savile.
grooming gangs, or anything like this, right? Yeah. I'm not saying that Keir Starmer doesn't have his blind spots, but when a guy steals an ice cream from a shop, you can guarantee that he's going to jail and then getting deported. And that's all I ask, really. That's all I want. You know, again, thankfully, I suspect reform will be far less forgiving for shoplifters as well. And so all of this, just constant rake in the face. But then we've got like this looming giant rake that's coming down on the Conservatives. I have no idea why they put this out. I have no idea why they put this out. Don't wake up to this on the 5th of July.
It's bizarre, isn't it, this?
Unbelievable. So for anyone watching, it is someone rolling out the red carpet to the illegal boat invaders, with a big welcome sign scrawled on the beach.
And the inference is, this is what you will get if you vote Labour.
Yeah, and ironically, this is the Conservative Party policy, right? This is unbelievable, and honestly, I nearly burst a blood vessel when I saw it. In fact, I mean, you know, I've given them a nice ratio there, because this is literally their plan. This is literally their policy, not even their plan. This is what they've done. We had a migrant hotel just over there, full of...
Or two next to each other.
Yeah, full of channel invaders, right? This 8 million a day, 5.5 million, a billion a year, sorry. The total amount ballooned to 5.4 billion because the Conservatives would just bring them in, and they would send the Coast Guard out to collect them, and then they would bring them in safely, put them in hotels using your money, give them a spending allowance. So I would have put them in jails. I would have put them in armed camps. They were like, well, it's costing you $2 billion a year to hold these armed camps. So yeah, I know. But that's only because, you know, the fleet to deport them isn't ready yet.
Maybe they were talking about the red carpet. Maybe it's going to be expensive on its own.
Maybe,
That's
but
going to
it's
be
just...
really different.
Yeah, people like Catherine Blakelock or Anne Widdecombe talk about, you'll be interred until you're deported.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've
What's wrong
literally
with that?
invaded
Nothing
the
wrong with
country
that.
illegally.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be here. You know you shouldn't be here. Why did you think coming here was going to be a soft touch?
The reason why people hate this so much, the reason why zero seats is a thing now, and why it's so infuriating, is that your average adult that's got their own mind, the thing you hate the most, right, is being lied to or being treated like you're
Being disrespected.
being treated like you're a child or that you're stupid or you've got no memory. That's what people hate more than anything else, and that's exactly what this is.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, like, I dislike Keir Starmer, obviously, but he's not acting like he isn't what he is. You know, the Conservatives are just flat out lying about their own record, about, your expectations, about what they've done. And I just can't stand it. I mean, like, okay, let's say you spent 5.4 billion in 2023, 2024, putting the migrants up in 4-star hotels for some reason. Don't know why you do that, but okay, mental. At least you could be like, well, look, we just don't want to be rough on them as we mass deport them or something. No, 5,000 people, 5,000 illegals got deported. Like, there were 25,000 in total who were told to leave, but 5,000 actually got physically deported. Great. Wonderful. And so then we get to the very crowning turd on the cake, which is the Conservatives trying to make a claim on their record on immigration, right? So you've got, say, James Cleverly here being like, by the way...
Here are 3 ways that Labour screwed up the UK's immigration system before. 1. In 2004, Labour was sending out search parties to find more migrants to come to the UK, according to Peter Mandelson. 2. In 2016, Labour's Shadow Home Secretary said that under Labour, immigration had been too fast. And yet, in 2015, she was saying that every county council in the country should take 10 more migrant families. And 3, in 2020, Keir Starmer said he would bring back freedom of movement, making border control completely impossible.
Border control? What the hell is that? Yeah. When was the last time we saw any border control, James? And just Conservatives...
James, are you out of your mind?
Yeah, exactly. The idea
out of your mind.
The Conservatives would even try to run on border control and lowering migration is preposterous. I mean, even during the pandemic, as you can see here, net migration was still positive, still 150,000 net in when the entire country is locked down. I mean, what were those migrants thinking? Arrived in Britain, nothing's open, no one's on the streets. The government's telling us we have to stay in our houses. Why the hell have I come here? 150,000 of them turn and be like, right, this wasn't what I was expecting. They're like a weird Soviet police state. But no, welcome to modern Britain under the Conservative Party. But then, of course, after the pandemic, you can see they're like, right, okay, we need to crank open the borders now, lads, to 1.2 million in for last year and the year before. It's like, it's never happened before. More people have come under the Conservative government than have ever come at any point in history. Like, it was something like the entire immigration into England between 1066 and like 1997, they have surpassed. It's mad. It's absolutely madness. And so the idea that they'd be like, oh, well, careful, Labour will open the borders. My brother in Christ, that's you. You are the Labour Party. 0 seats. 0 seats.
A crime of unprecedented magnitude.
Yeah, exactly. I have to write a book to explain the betrayal on this. But no, just stop posting on your social media. You're terrible at it. Everything you post is just a rake to your own faces, and you deserve the 0 seats that you're going to get.
One last thing, if I could add to that, which is a little bit conspiratorial, because there's no proper full-blown evidence for it. But it is sort of almost inexplicable. A lot of people have been saying, like, why you've described it as like a stroke. Yeah. It's almost inexplicable why the Tories are being so bad at trying to get themselves re-elected. Do you remember when Obama came and visited out of the blue, came and visited Rishi at number 10?
Yeah. What was he doing? Hanging around.
It feels like, and again, there's no proper evidence for this, but it just feels like he sort of had a message from the party of Davos, from the WEF overlords, whoever it is, saying it's time to call an election and throw it. We want Starmer in now. We see a window of opportunity where Starmer, our other puppet, our backup puppet, can get a massive majority, and that's better for us now. So call an election and throw it.
Yeah, the Uni Party stays in power forever now, which is why it's so imperative to vote reform, frankly. So we've got to make sure that Farage can get somewhere.
Nige for PM this time round.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, make it happen. Hi folks, thanks for watching. This is a clip from a broader podcast called The Podcast of the Lotus Eaters. It's live 1 p.m. every day UK time, Monday to Friday. And if you want to support us, you can sign up for £5 a month, help us keep the lights on, because of course we're demonetized here, and go and watch Lads Hour. Lads Hour is one of my favorite shows because it's basically, I guess there's no easy way to describe it than calling it The View, but for men. We talk about whatever we want, but from an unabashedly masculine perspective, and we have a great time doing it. So come over and watch that.